Hello. Hello and welcome to the new lesson on education. It's been a long time that we've been talking and discussing this topic, and it will probably be the last time, so pay attention and feel free to ask any question necessary on the WhatsApp group. The question today is about higher education. Is it a universal right? Okay, so first, is higher education a universal right? It is a yes-no question, right? Is it a right? Is it universal? Yes or no? Your goal when you have to deal with a yes-no question, your goal is to change the question, to rephrase the question into an open question, okay? Because whether you think yes, it is a universal right, or no, it's not, no one cares, okay? No one minds. And that's not what you need to do, okay? That's not the question that you need to answer. That's important, okay? So, you've got a yes-no question, you should transform it into an open question. How do you do that? First, definition, okay? Higher education, you know what it is. It's when you leave high school, when you go to college, when you go to university, that's higher education. Right. But what is a universal right? That's a good question. Okay, so when you think of universal rights, first you should think of the 1948 UDHR, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And you can look it up on the internet. There are many universal rights recognized by the majority of the countries in the world. Liberty, freedom of thought, of opinion, freedom of religion, the right to a standard of living, the prohibition of slavery, the prohibition of torture are among the universal rights in the list. Education is more complicated. It's not exactly an official universal right. But as an unofficial right, its status is a bit complex. It's quite complicated. Why? Because it is said that first, primary education, so from the age of 5 or 6 to the age of 10, 11, 12, this primary education should be free and compulsory, okay, obligatory, compulsory, for all, boys and girls. Now, secondary education, so from the age of 10 to 12 to the age 16, 17, 18. It should be an obligation for the states, for the countries. It should be an obligation to make secondary education accessible, not compulsory, but anyone who wants to have a secondary education should be allowed and should have the possibility of having a secondary education, okay? And now, higher education. Higher education is not compulsory, alright? But anyone should have an equitable access. That is what the text, the declaration says. Everyone should have an equitable access to higher education. What does it mean? It means that there should be no discrimination between people, except on one criterion: merit. Do you deserve to go to uni? Not because you come from a rich family, not because it's a tradition in your family to go to university, only because what you did at school in the previous years is a proof that you can succeed, that you can benefit and succeed from a university education, a higher education. Right. So, it's not for anyone, not for everyone. So, is it a universal right? No. Going to university is not a universal right, but accessing should be a universal right. Not university, but going to uni, the possibility of going to uni should be a universal right. Okay, so that's first. You should be allowed, you should have access to university on the basis of merit, of your capacity. So if you deserve to go, you should be able to go. Right. Now, we've defined universal rights and we've created a link with higher education. Okay? Starting on the rights, then looking, checking the status of education, and then moving on to higher education in this debate. Alright? See what we've done? So now, we've said that merit should be the only criterion. Is it? Or are there some other limits? Hidden obstacles? Well, let's discuss four little topics, four issues with you, starting with A, the cost of higher education. You know that it's a big problem. You want to go to private schools after the prépa, so you know what it's like. Okay, you know that you must ask yourself the question: can I afford to go to university? So, a few information for you. In the UK, in the United Kingdom, there is a cap, that is a maximum fee that is fixed, that is given by the legislation of the country. Okay? 14 years ago, in 2006, the maximum that you could have to pay for 1 year of university in the UK was £3,000. £3,000 maximum. Okay? But the legislation changed since 2006. Today, it's way more than that. It actually changed in 2010. That's important to remember. In 2010, the maximum fee, the cap on the tuition fees for university moved up from 3,000 a year to 9,000 a year. Okay? And it is indexed on the inflation. So, of course, it increases every year. It led to very, very large, massive students' protests in the streets of London in the year 2010, but it didn't change anything. Okay? So, there's maximum, a limit imposed by the law, set by the law, which is between 9 and 10,000 pounds a year. Okay? And it's maximum, but 3 out of 4 universities, so 75% of universities charge the full amount. Okay, they charge the maximum fee. So it's quite expensive. It's more expensive than universities in France, and that more expensive than most schools. Right. The defense for this new legislation, for raising the maximum fee, the defense was that you could have loans. Okay, loans were available, loans covering the full tuition, So that's the cost of university, the cost of the flats that you can rent on campus, for example, okay, and the books, etc., etc. You could get them not from the banks, but directly from the universities. The universities can act like banks, and you can borrow money from the universities. Okay, and surprisingly, because of that increase, there was a reduction of inequalities. Because the money that the universities gained with the raise, the money, a substantive part of the money was invested in grants, in loans. Okay, so the money was given back to the students, or was loaned back to the students. And so more and more students could afford to go to universities because more and more grants and loans were available. So that's quite surprising, but because the cost of university increased, inequalities decrease. So, in the UK, it seems that this notion of merit as the major criterion when you decide if you should go to uni or not, this notion of merit as the main criterion is preserved. Equitable access is guaranteed. But there are other problems. So B, the 2019 bribery scandal in the United States, in American universities. You probably heard about it. I think I've mentioned it in class. But last year in the USA, there was a big scandal revealed by the press, by the media. Some people tried to influence the admissions decision at some elite universities, especially in California, like Stanford University, UCLA, but also on the East Coast at Yale University. So, usually when you want to apply, when you want to go to university in the USA, what do? Well, you are in high school, you apply for several colleges, universities, okay, with a letter of motivation, etc., as you've done as students yourself, but it costs, on average, it costs around $40 to apply for one university. Okay, you pay the university to apply. Maybe you will be rejected, you will be declined, but you pay. Okay, so you do that, and then you pass some tests. Okay, standardized tests. Multiple choice questions in math, in reading, okay, text comprehension, and other small things like that. That's quite a big deal actually. It's quite important, okay? And you get a score, and if your score is good enough for university, you may be accepted. So you apply, you take the test, and then you write, as I said, a letter of motivation, a cover letter in which you explain all the extracurricular activities that you do, everything that you do outside school to prove that you're a good person, that you deserve to enter university, etc., etc. So that's the legal way, the normal way. But in this scandal, it was revealed that there were two ways that some people used to enter university. First, some people cheated in the test to get better score. How do you do that? Well, the main problem, the main difficulty in these tests is the time. Okay, you've got plenty of questions in a very short, limited time. Right, so usually if you have a question wrong, if you do wrong on a question, it's not exactly because you don't know the answer. Usually it's because you didn't have time to think about it or to do it. So some people paid an organization, criminal organization in the US, and they got false, fake medical certifications. Okay, they've got fake papers saying, well, this person, this student needs extra time. Okay, what we call influenza tiers-temps, for example. Okay, you need extra time because you've got a problem with your hand, anything. So you have more time to think about the answers, and of course you can get a better score if you don't have a real problem. So that was one possibility. Okay, cheating in the test by having a false medical certification and so having extra time in the exam. 2. The fabrication of sports credentials. Okay, you've got a fake letter from a coach, a sports coach, saying, well, this person is really good at football, this person is really good at tennis, rowing, tracks, etc. Anything. Okay, and so you are accepted because you are a high potential student. Okay, you've got a high potential in sports, and so the university will try to recruit you more easily. So this recent American example is the proof that money allows to circumvent, to go around, to avoid legal ways of being admitted to college. So, and that is an obstacle to equal opportunities. Okay, equitable access is no longer guaranteed in that situation. Do you understand? Right. C. Private schools and state-run schools, especially in the UK. I'm not going into details. I'm not going to spend a long time on it because we've done that in school, in class together. So think about Eton, okay, and all the statistics. Think about the composition of Boris Johnson's cabinet at the moment. You know that. So I won't repeat myself. So D. Finally, is it worth it? Should everyone go to university? If we say that higher education is a universal right, meaning everyone should go to university, is it a good service to give to societies? It's not because you can go to university that you must go to university. The former American President Barack Obama said, and I quote, "Everyone should train for the job market of the future." Everyone should train for the job market of the future. It is true that the job market is changing, and it's changing toward more technological or engineering or analytical job. It's true. And that requires a university education to become an engineer, to become a data analyst, okay, to become a specialist in finance, trade, etc. Yeah, but there's also the need for unqualified workers. Okay, there's also the need for other jobs that don't require university education. So not everyone should go if we want to have a society which functions well. And in fact, everyone should aim for a specialty and a job that you like first. Maybe you don't like the jobs that you can get after university education. So a job that you like, and also a job that suits your ability, that is within your capacities. And maybe you don't have the capacity for a high university education. And that's not a problem. That's not a problem, okay? So, should everyone go to university? No, of course not, okay? Right, so that was one way to answer a question, not the only way, maybe not the perfect way, but that was one way to answer the question. What I would like to remember, first, the facts, okay? This thing about the cap on fees in the UK, for example. Remember that. Remember the example of the bribery scandal, that's important. But what you should keep in mind, not for this question, but for all questions in any essay, is turn yes-no questions into open question. Okay? Nobody is interested in what you think about this question. Yes, no, we don't mind. We don't want that for an answer. What you need to think is it a universal right? Well, first, what is a universal right? What is the status of education, higher education, in the universal rights? Okay, we've decided and we've seen that merit should be the only criterion. Is it true in real life? Is it true? Does it work like that? No, why not? Because there are limits, and so because you ask many questions in a row to yourself, well, you get to an open question. Okay, there are limits. What are they? And that's your question for your introduction. What are the limits to the universality of higher education? Okay, what are the limits? And you've got an open question, and you've got plenty of things to tell, to give, plenty of information to give to the person that will read your essay. And that's what really matters. That is what is really important here. Okay, keep that in mind. That's the most important tip that I can give you. Okay, you no longer have to write an essay like for the baccalaureate. Okay, you need to step up your game. Okay, to be really interesting in what you say. Okay, I leave you to that. I'm giving you a few sentences to translate before next week. Okay, before next week. And if you have any question, we've got the WhatsApp group. Please use it. Ask any question about the lesson. If you need vocab, if you need anything, ask me some questions. Thank you. I'll see you at the end of the week on the YouTube live to do the correction to a few things, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.